But it's one thing to say we'll be a 30 trillion, whether it's achievable or not.
Yeah.
That's another matter. But what about why are we going only by GDP measurements? What about social indices?
Oh, absolutely.
Will we be able to match them with the developed country status by 2047?
No, I agree with you, because so if we have a GDP size of that, naturally the per capita income will be, because population is supposed to level out in India by about 160 crores in the next 20 to 30 years, not 20. I think in that sense, it will automatically translate into an income of around $18,000 to $20,000 at current prices, which is, I think, because developed country status as per current metrics is about $12,000 and more. And you are right. I mean, those are much larger questions. It's not just per capita GDP, which is just an average measure. It's also the distribution. All these things do matter. And I think we are not doing badly on those scores as well, because if you take into account the transfers and the taxes, if you calculate distribution of income after taxes, after transfers by the governments, both union and states, are taken into consideration, then the distribution of income and the distribution of purchasing power is quite reasonable. And growth is always not the conclusive indicator. It is a necessary condition. You can't distribute nothing. You have to distribute something, and that something has to be created. So in that sense, growth is a very essential precondition.
Okay. One of your eminent predecessors, a prominent person, has termed this as hype. He says this is hype, and this kind of target is nonsense. So do you, and he's someone who has been in these positions.
Sure. No, I mean, look, countries need overarching goals to inspire, to motivate, and targets have to have an element of stretch. If they are so easily reachable, then it is not a target. So when you have a target that appears ambitious or like a stretch target, then it is possible for someone to comment like that. But the truth is, you need these kinds of goals to capture imagination, to make people get enthused by it. So I don't necessarily subscribe to that point of view. Yeah.
And but his point is, that you need more skill development.
Oh, absolutely.
You need more education.
Absolutely.
And
no, I mean, all these things are part of the growth process, isn't it? I mean, I think there is no denying the fact that that these numbers are going to happen only by just simply showing up there. By showing up in 2047, you're not going to be arriving at 30. That everybody agrees with. I mean, so in terms of identifying the key areas where we need actions, two of the things you mentioned were education and skilling. But that is where I think if you look at recent trends, the distribution of education attainment, either in rural India or urban India, or between women and men, the proportion of the population now compared to, let's say, at the turn of the millennium and where we are today in either rural or urban India, in fact more so in rural India, the growth in the proportion of the young population that is now having an attainment of graduate education or secondary and higher secondary has grown much faster. And earlier, second example I'll give you is that earlier the enrollment ratio of women to men in tertiary education used to be 3/4 of what men were. Now it is 96.8% women for every 100 men in tertiary education enrollment. So both in schooling and tertiary education, earlier we used to be worried about the low enrollment ratio. Now that is not the issue. Now the issue is ensuring quality and learning outcomes. So the problem is shifting to higher levels. And I think we do have to set our sights higher to be able to, in fact, realize the urgency and the importance of many of these issues. I think the target helps us to focus on education, health, skilling, energy security, and then what do we do about the MSME sector, the Mittelstand as we call it. So these are all definitely priority areas, but these challenges are the ones that actually are going to give you the upside as you resolve them. So I don't see that there is inconsistency between these two.
But talking of skilling, it seems to be a big problem. In this very hall, 2 weeks ago, I met a very prominent corporate executive who's invested thousands of crores in semiconductors. And he was saying that his biggest problem is talent deficit. Mm-hmm. And this morning I was talking to another CEO here who also mentioned the same thing.
Okay.
He says getting skilled talent is becoming a big problem. So
no, look, again, I think as an issue, I think it is an important issue and it is still there. But again, there are two things we need to keep in mind. One is if the problem as it stands today, it is still an important problem area. But where were we and where we are today, that is also important, because the direction and the trajectory both matter. While the stock of problem, as we say, the stock can be still a formidable issue, but the flow matters. And that is where, CII itself comes up with this annual India Skill Report, which is based on an annual test that they do it together with this agency called VBox, which is a subsidiary of the Education Testing Service, ETS in the US, which most of us know. They do the TOEFL and GRE exams and all that. So they began this about 12 years ago, and in 2014, the pass rate was 33.1%, but now it is 51.3%. So this is a national employability test. So they say that about 4 lakh students take this test, and this happens every year. So what I'm trying to say is that there is a 18% improvement in the pass rate in this employability test. So the skill shortages also arise because as the economy grows in size, the need for skill, especially in the semiconductor spaces, increases. That is why I think several universities and colleges are now beginning to include this as part of their coursework, etc. So there is going to be a small lag effect between the requirement and the availability, the pipeline for it to come through. So I would say, as an area of attention, as an area for action, it will be a very important one. But whether we have made progress, undoubtedly yes. So both are true.
Okay, point taken.